Hey, and welcome back to Koala Moon. I'm Abby, and tonight we say Goodnight Hector and Sunny, a cosy bedtime story collection from our best doggy friends. Before we begin, I've got a tiny request. Koala Moon's a new channel, but currently only 1 in 10 of you subscribe. By subscribing, you'll show YouTube that you value the channel, which will help us grow. So please take a second and tap subscribe. Shall we begin? This is Hector and Sunny Meet a Wizard by Gillian Rogerson. A beautiful golden retriever called Hector was on holiday with his best friend Sunny, a kind-hearted cocker spaniel with eyes the colour of a summer sky. They had brought their owners with them. Hector and his owner were staying in a cottage by the sea, and Sunny was staying with her owner in the cottage right next door. The dogs were having a marvellous time. There were many amazing beaches to run along, country paths to explore, and lots of seagulls to chase. The seagulls loved chasing games just as much as the dogs did. On the 3rd day of their holiday, Hector and Sunny came out of their cottages and said good morning to each other. Their owners came out behind them and said hello to each other too, and talked about how lovely the weather was. Hector jigged excitedly from side to side and told Sunny they were all going somewhere very special that morning, and she would never guess where. Sunny tried to guess anyway. Are we going to the fun fair on the pier? Or doggy paddling in the sea? Or playing football with those children on the beach again? I had a lot of fun doing that yesterday. Hector chuckled and said it was none of those. He puffed out his golden furred chest and announced proudly, "Sunny, we're going to a castle." "A bouncy castle?" Sunny asked hopefully. "Nope," Hector replied. "It's even better than that. It's a really old castle that was built hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Actually, Sunny, it's not even a full castle anymore. It's in ruins, but lots of the walls are still standing. Well, some of them are." "Oh, lovely." Sunny couldn't hide the slight disappointment in her voice. Hector noticed and said, "It's not just any old ruined castle, though. I watched a TV program with my owner a few weeks ago about the castle. It's called Tintagel Castle, and—" Hector paused dramatically. "A wizard called Merlin used to live there, and a king called Arthur, too. Well, that's what people think." Sunny's beautiful eyes grew wider and wider. "A wizard? And a king? Was the wizard magic? What did he do? Did he wear a pointy hat and have one of those long robes? Oh, Hector, this is so exciting." Hector nodded. "It is. I don't know much about the wizard or what magic he did, because I fell asleep halfway through the program, but I can't wait to explore the castle. I've never been inside one before, except on a bouncy castle with you, of course. I love bouncy castles." Sunny said she did too. She gazed wistfully into the distance and said, "I wonder if Merlin the wizard still lives in the castle somewhere. I'd love to meet a wizard and find out what they do." Hector raised his nose and sniffed the air. A familiar look came into his dark eyes. It was a look Sunny knew well, and seeing it now filled her heart with joy. She moved closer to Hector. Even though their owners couldn't speak dog, she whispered anyway. "Hector, can you smell magic in the air again? Are we going on another adventure soon?" Hector gave her a wise look and nodded. "We are, Sunny, and I think this adventure will have something to do with a wizard." Sunny's eyes filled with admiration for her best friend and his amazing powers, and thinking about a new adventure made her jig from side to side. Hector copied her, and the two dogs barked in happiness about their upcoming adventure as they danced this way and that. Their owners stared down at the dogs, shook their heads, and then walked towards their cars. They decided to take Sunny's car, and everyone bundled into it. Hector and Sunny sat in the back and looked out of the window, huge smiles still on their faces. The car zipped along the country lanes, and a short time later, they arrived at the picturesque coastal town of Tintagel. As soon as their doors were opened, the dogs jumped out of the car and began looking left and right in search of the castle. Hector spotted it first. "Look, Sunny, it's over there on top of that island. Can you see it? There's a bridge leading over to it." Sunny saw the remains of the castle. The early morning mist wound around the stone walls that still remained. The island was surrounded by the deep blue sea. The soothing sound of the waves lapping against the rocks drifted towards the dogs, and the cry of a seagull made them look upwards at the clear blue sky. Sunny sighed happily and told Hector that the castle looked very magical, and asked if he could see a wizard anywhere. "Not yet," Hector replied. Their owners walked away from the car park and along a path that led to the castle. The dogs trotted at their side. The warm sea air flowed around the dogs and ruffled their fur. Sunny looked out at the calm blue sea and said, "It looks like the sea goes on forever and ever." The call of another seagull made her look upwards again. She saw two peculiar items twirling on a gust of wind. "Hector, look up. Can you see something strange?" Hector raised his head. "Oh, yes, I can." He peered closer at the objects. "Sunny, those are hats, wizard hats, and they're coming straight towards us. I think our next magical adventure is about to begin. Get ready to catch one of the hats on your head." The two wizard hats danced on the breeze towards the waiting dogs. The hats were purple with silver stars dotted around the brim. The dogs' owners hadn't noticed the hats and were talking about the history of the castle. Hector and Sunny stood still and waited for the hats to come closer. The hats bobbed towards them and landed securely on their heads. The wizard hats were a perfect fit for the dogs. Hector and Sunny grinned at each other and waited for the magic to begin. The world around them froze in time. Their owners stopped in mid-walk and mid-talk. Everyone was still, except for the dogs. When they'd gone on adventures before, they had been magically transported to other places. But something different happened this time. The people around them vanished, and so did the nearby shops and cars. Hector's brow wrinkled in confusion. "Sunny, what's happening? Why aren't we going anywhere?" Sunny smiled at her lovely friend and said, "We have gone somewhere. We've gone back in time. Hector, look at the castle. It's not in ruins anymore. It looks new, like it was built yesterday." Hector stared at the castle in wonder. The castle looked magnificent, and there were no broken walls anywhere. People walked in and out of a huge arched doorway, wearing old-fashioned robes and dresses, and horses were tied up outside the walls, neighing lightly. "Wow," Hector said, in total awe. "We've never gone back in time before. What shall we do first, Sunny?" Sunny replied, "I'd like to meet that wizard, Merlin, if he still lives here, and find out more about him. Do you think he'll be able to understand us?" Hector said that if Merlin really was a wizard, then he would use his magical powers to understand them. The metal footbridge to the castle that had been there moments ago had vanished with the rest of the modern world and been replaced with a wooden bridge. The dogs jogged towards the bridge and onto it. Their paws tapped out a soft rhythm on the wood as they walked across it. Hector and Sunny stopped outside the main entrance. They looked through the opening and saw people milling about the courtyard inside and going about their daily business. Food stalls were set up, and the lovely smell of cooked food floated towards the dogs. Hector spotted a man dressed in bright clothes and wearing a hat with bells on it. The man sang a joyful song and danced, making the bells on his hat jingle. Hector pointed out the happy man to Sunny, and the dogs had a little dance to his song. Just as they were about to enter the castle and start exploring it, they heard a faint voice coming from a different direction. They clearly heard the words, "I will never get the hang of this magic spell. Never." Hope filled the dogs' hearts, and they thought the voice must belong to a wizard. They followed the sound of the muttering voice and walked down a set of stone steps at the side of the castle's entrance. The steps led down to a small beach that was hidden from view. In the middle of the golden sand was a little lizard. Her skin was pale purple and speckled with small circles of silver that glistened in the sunlight. She was staring intently at a shell on the sand and mumbling something about her magic not working like it was supposed to. Hector and Sunny padded across the soft sand and stopped at her side. Sunny coughed politely and said, "Hello, excuse us for disturbing you, but are you talking to yourself or the shell?" The lizard looked up at the two visitors and gave them a small smile. She said, A bit of both, I suppose. I'm trying to cast a magic spell that will make this shell dance in the air, but my magic isn't working. I'm saying the right words of the spell, the words that Merlin taught me. The dogs let out loud gasps of surprise and stared at the lizard. Hector said, "You know Merlin? Merlin, the wizard?" The lizard nodded. "Yes, everyone around here does. He's been teaching me some magic tricks, or trying to. I'm good at remembering the words of the spells, but I can't get them to work, no matter how hard I try." She gave the dogs a closer look. "I like your hats. Are you wizards too?" Sunny said they weren't wizards and explained who they were and where in time they had come from. The lizard wasn't at all surprised to hear they had travelled through time and said she could see the magic in their eyes. She told them that her full name was Elizabeth, but everyone called her Lizzie. She said she lived in a cave at the back of the beach. Lizzie explained. "This beach is where I first met Merlin a few weeks ago. I saw him walking along the beach and looking out at the waves. He had such a friendly face, and I walked over and introduced myself. We got chatting, and he told me about his magical abilities and said anyone could do magic spells, even animals like me. I wasn't sure about that, but Merlin said all I had to do was believe in myself and practice every day. He gave me the words of many spells and said he would come back often to see how I was getting on. He called me his apprentice, which means I'll be a wizard like him one day. Since meeting Merlin, it's my dream to become a wizard like him. But I don't think that's going to happen because I can't even do one spell." Lizzie stopped talking and looked down at the shell. She sighed ever so softly, but the dogs heard her. Sunny said, "We don't know much about magic, but we could try to help you, if you'd like us to, of course." Lizzie looked at the kind dogs, and a smile spread across her little lizard face. "I would like that, thank you." Sunny thought about Lizzie's problem and said, "Perhaps you should start with a much simpler spell. When I was younger, I used to love collecting sticks at the park. I always went for the biggest stick I could find, but they were too big for me. And no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't pick them up. So I decided to try smaller sticks instead, until I found one that was the perfect size for me. As I got stronger, I started to pick up bigger and bigger sticks." Hector hissed out of the side of his mouth. "Sunny, I don't know what sticks have got to do with magic." Sunny grinned and said, "What I'm trying to say is you could start with a simpler spell, Lizzie. Perhaps just making the shell shimmy from side to side in the sand. And when your magical powers get stronger, then you can move on to bigger spells." Lizzie nodded. "Yes, that makes sense. I do know a spell to make a shell shimmy from side to side in the sand." The lizard, who wanted to be a wizard, concentrated on the shell. She muttered some words and looked hopefully at the shell. Hector and Sunny looked at it hopefully too. The shell didn't move. Hector said, "Don't give up, Lizzie. Believe in yourself. We believe in you." His words made the lizard more determined than ever. She said the words again. The shell moved slightly to one side, then to the other, and then it began to shimmy swiftly from side to side in the sand. The lizard and the two dogs cheered loudly. Lizzie proceeded to cast more spells over other shells, and she made them shimmy in the sand too. Her belief in herself grew and grew. She cast bigger and bigger spells, and finally she made the shells rise from the sand and dance in the air. She added some music to the dancing shells. It was quite a wonderful sight to see. Hector and Sunny loved watching the dancing shells and boogied along with them. Lizzie danced too. After a while, Lizzie brought the shells back to the sand and made them still again. Hector and Sunny said she was a wonderful wizard and couldn't wait to see what she would do next. Hector said, "Before you do any more magic, I think you should have a hat and a long robe like Merlin." "That's a great idea. Thank you." Lizzie magicked up a beautiful hat and robe. The hat was just like the dogs were wearing, purple and edged in silver stars. Her long robe matched her hat, and the stars along the hem twinkled brightly. The dogs admired her outfit and said she looked fabulous. The lizard wizard asked the dogs if they would like to help her with some magic spells. Hector was too surprised to speak, so Sunny answered for both of them and said yes, please. Lizzie said, "You've already got the hats, and now you need the robes. Is it okay if I cast a spell on you to make that happen?" The dogs nodded and said they completely trusted her magical abilities. Lizzie recited the words of another spell, and purple robes edged with silver stars appeared on the delighted dogs. They were a perfect fit. The lizard began to perform more magic. She created a beautiful sandcastle that looked exactly like the castle on the hill above them. She gave Hector and Sunny the words of a shell-moving spell and asked them to decorate her sandcastle with the shells. Hector wasn't sure he could do that, but Sunny gave him a long, kind look and said she believed in him. Her words made Hector feel all warm and happy inside, and he knew he could do anything with Sunny at his side. Hector and Sunny looked at the shells on the sand and carefully repeated the words Lizzie had given them. To their utter delight, the shells rose from the sand and floated towards the sandcastle. They landed firmly on the walls of the sandy building. Hector was so astonished that he had to sit down for a moment and take it all in. When he'd got over his shock at being a wizard, he stood up and asked what they could do next. Before Lizzie could answer him, a noise from above made them look upwards. A huge purple dragon was flying through the sky, its wings slowly flapping. On the dragon's back was a man dressed in a pointy hat and a long flowing robe. The man looked down at the small beach and waved to the 3 animal wizards. Lizzie waved back and said, "That's Merlin." Hector had to sit down again. It was all too much for him. The dragon flew towards the castle and disappeared from view. Lizzie looked wistfully at the empty sky and said, "I wish I could fly on a dragon like Merlin, but all the dragons I know are too big for me." Sunny had watched a lot of nature programs with her owner, and she told Lizzie about an animal called a bearded dragon and how it wasn't much bigger than Lizzie. Sunny wasn't sure if the bearded dragons could fly, but if Lizzie met one who wanted to fly, maybe she could use her magic and make that happen. Lizzie shook her head in amazement at the dogs and said they were full of great ideas. "Where would I find a bearded dragon?" she asked Sunny. Sunny replied, "Well, I know where they live in my time, but it might be different in your time." Lizzie nodded. "Good point. I could magic myself to a land where they live and see if any of them want to be flying dragons and live here with me." She paused. "Is my magic strong enough to do that?" "Of course it is," Sunny replied firmly. "We still believe in you, don't we, Hector?" Hector was still sitting on the sand. He stood up and said they absolutely did believe in Lizzie. Lizzie smiled at them. She used some magic words and made herself disappear. The dogs heard someone walking down the stone steps behind them. The dogs turned around and saw Merlin the wizard strolling towards them. Hector planted his paws in the sand and managed to remain standing. Merlin said, "Hello there. I can tell you two have come from some time in the future. I'd love to know how you came to be here and why." Sunny had to do all the explaining because Hector was staring open-mouthed at the wizard and couldn't utter a single word. Merlin took all the information in, including the part about Lizzie looking for a bearded dragon. Merlin looked knowingly towards the sea and said Lizzie was on her way back and she had found a bearded dragon called Whiskers, who was overjoyed at being asked to live near the castle. "Is Lizzie flying towards us now?" Sunny asked. Merlin nodded. A happy glint came into his eyes, and he asked the dogs if they would like to fly with him on his dragon and meet Lizzie in the sky. Sunny put her paw on Hector to stop him from sitting down in surprise again and said they would love that. Thank you. Merlin let out a low whistle. A moment later, the purple dragon appeared in the sky, flew down to them, and settled on the sand. Merlin helped the dogs onto the dragon's back and secured them in place, tucking their wizard robes around their legs. Merlin sat behind them and asked the dragon to take them across the sea in a southerly direction. The dragon opened its wings and rose smoothly from the ground. Up and up they all went, until they were high above the castle. The dogs looked down at the people inside the castle and waved to them. Some people waved back, as though seeing wizard dogs flying on a dragon was something that happened all the time. The purple dragon flew them across the wide blue sea. The dogs' ears flapped in the breeze. Hector and Sunny couldn't stop smiling at each other. What an amazing adventure they were having. Very soon they saw Lizzie flying towards them on a bearded dragon who had purple wings. She waved to Merlin and the dogs and flew closer to them. Merlin told Lizzie he was very impressed with her magical abilities and knew her powers would get stronger and stronger. The 4 wizards flew over the sea for a while longer and then headed back to the castle. They landed on the grassy area where Hector and Sunny had first seen the flying hats. The dogs were helped off the dragon. They both yawned. It was time for them to return to their own time. Hector and Sunny thanked Merlin and Lizzie for the magical adventure. Merlin said they could come back any time they wanted to, and gave them the words of a spell that would bring them back. The new friends said goodbye to each other. The dragons and their wizards rose from the ground and flew away. Hector and Sunny watched the dragons flying further and further away. Then they barked 3 times and were instantly back in their own time. Their purple robes vanished, and their hats blew away in a strong gust of wind. Hector and Sunny's owners became unfrozen and carried on walking towards the castle, which was now in ruins again. Sunny sighed happily and said going back in time had been an incredible adventure. Hector agreed. He raised his nose and sniffed the air. He said, "There's another adventure waiting for us out there, Sunny, and I think we'll be going forward in time one day." Sunny nodded, not surprised by his words at all. She said, "As long as I'm with you, Hector, it doesn't matter where in time I am. And as long as we can always return to our lovely owners after an adventure, then I'm a very happy dog indeed." Hector said he felt the same way. The 2 best friends walked at the side of their beloved human friends, feeling like the luckiest dogs in the world. is Hector and Sunny in New York City by Luke Prendergast. Although it's true that Hector and Sunny, two normal-seeming but incredibly special dogs, had been on many fantastical adventures, they had never been on what you might call a conventional holiday. But all that was about to change. One afternoon, while they were lounging about in the garden, relaxing in the spring sunlight and chewing on an old flip-flop, Hector's dad came out of the house to tell them that he had something exciting to tell them. The very next day, they would all be going on holiday. They'd be catching a plane. They were off, he said, to New York, the Big Apple, the city that never sleeps, the most exhilarating metropolis in the whole wide world. So, he concluded, barely able to keep his own excitement from fizzing up and out, they'd better go and get ready. Hector and Sunny might have never been on holiday before, but they certainly knew how to get ready for one. They'd seen their owners pack their bags each year as they went off on holiday, to beach vacations, city breaks, skiing trips, and jungle expeditions. So they went upstairs, pulled out a couple of suitcases, and threw open the wardrobe doors. "Oh, I wonder what the weather will be like," Hector mused, looking through the wardrobe. "Everything depends on that, really." "Well," Sunny told him, "it's spring. So I bet it will be warm in the day but chilly at night. And it might rain, you know. So it's best to pack for all eventualities." And so that's what they did. They packed sunglasses and anoraks, 2 light scarves, and a couple of sun hats. Hector even packed his favourite tartan jacket, which clipped up under his belly. They packed a few bags of treats, in case they got peckish, and a book each too, in case of a rainy day. They packed their toiletries, doggy toothbrushes, nail clippers, a brush to keep their coats nice and sleek. "Oh!" Sunny cried after him as Hector bounded out of the room to fetch something. "And don't forget a couple of chew toys. We'll need some good stuff to chew on in New York City." "Nice thinking," Hector told her with a toothy grin, and he ran off to get the toys. The next morning they woke up when their alarm went off, grabbed their bags between their teeth, and jumped into the car. Hector's dad was very impressed. "Wow," he said, "dogs who can pack their own bags. Imagine that." Everyone was very excited. They were never up this early. The sun was only just rising, and the car headlights shone on the dark roads. But even though it was early, they were all surprised to find that the airport was busy. The huge terminal, with its sliding glass doors and cafes and backlit signs, was teeming with people, all of them walking this way and that, pulling wheelie suitcases behind them, looks of eager anticipation on their faces. "Everyone's looking forward to going on holiday," said Sunny. "Well, you can't blame them," Hector replied. "So am I." The 2 dogs stood beside Hector's dad as they all looked up at the big screen, which listed all the flights that were taking off that morning. Soon they saw their flight to New York City. They followed the signs to the check-in desk listed and waited in the queue for 5 minutes until they reached the front. The man behind the desk was very friendly as he checked Hector's dad's passport and Hector and Sunny's canine passports and weighed their bags. "Is it your first time going to New York?" he asked them. Hector's dad told him it was. "Oh," he said, returning their passports to Hector's dad with a big, bright smile. "What a wonderful time you're going to have, and with your adorable dogs, too." And they watched as their suitcase wobbled down the conveyor belt and disappeared out of sight. Next up, they made their way to security. They waited in another queue. And then a friendly security officer told them to place any metal objects they might have into a little plastic box. "Even the dog's collars?" Hector's dad asked. "Oh, yes, sir," she replied. "That'll have to come off." So Hector's dad slipped off their collars, put them in the box, and then let the dogs trot through the security arches. Then he followed on through. "Thank you," the security woman said, beaming. She handed them back their collars. "Have a fantastic trip." Soon enough, Hector and Sunny were at their gate. They sat by the huge glass windows, looking out at all the planes that trundled down the runways and then took off gracefully into the sky, like big metal birds. Then a particularly large plane rolled up to their gate. "This must be ours," Sunny barked. And she was right. After a few minutes, the air stewards called them up and checked their boarding passes and passports one more time. "1 human seat and 2 canine seats," she said. "Gotcha." And then they were on the plane. They buckled their belts, watched the security information carefully, and Hector's dad slipped on his headphones to watch an in-flight movie. But Hector and Sunny were having too much fun to watch any kind of movie at all. They watched through the window as the plane rose up, broke through the misty bank of clouds and out into the crystal blue sky. "Wow," they both whispered. The clouds spread out like white, fluffy mountains beneath them, and for the rest of the journey, Hector and Sunny settled back into their seats and watched them roll by. New York City was more spectacular than either Hector or Sunny could ever have imagined. The skyscrapers towered up so high in the sky they got dizzy from looking upwards. Yellow taxis flowed in long lines down the roads. People on the streets smiled and waved and hurried about, and steam rose in clouds from big metal grates in the pavement. Or, they should say, in the sidewalk. That's what New Yorkers called it. Hector's dad took them to Central Park. They walked up Broadway. They visited the Empire State Building. And at the end of their first day, feeling tired and satisfied, they went back home, and Hector's dad took a nap. "You know what I'm in the mood for?" Sunny asked Hector. "What?" "Relaxing and having a good chew on a chew toy." "That's a great idea," Hector agreed. But that's when they made a very unfortunate discovery. They'd forgotten to pack the chew toys. They searched all through both their bags, but they couldn't find them. Hector felt very guilty. It had been his job to pack the chew toys after all. But Sunny, with her big, kind heart, told him that he shouldn't feel bad, not even for one moment. "There's no worries," she told him. "Besides, we're in New York City. I bet there's plenty of things out there to chew on." And so Hector and Sunny headed back out into the city to search for something to chew. They looked up the streets, they peered into shops, they looked under cars, they searched in front yards, but they couldn't find anything. Then, just as they were about to give up, Hector spotted something. "Look, Sunny, look," he said. And he pointed at a chew toy, a bright purple rubber bone lying next to a metal grate on the street. "Oh, that's perfect," said Sunny. The two of them bounded over, and Sunny was just about to lower her head to grasp the toy between her teeth and give it a good old chew, when, much to their surprise, the purple bone stood up, shook itself, opened its wide googly eyes and said, "Oh, hello there, you two. How you doing?" Our two canine pals were so surprised to find a talking purple bone that they themselves were momentarily stuck for words. The purple bone blinked at them a few times. Then a realization lit up in his eyes. Were you two actually... Were you two gonna chew me? It took a second for Sunny to find her tongue. No, she said. The purple bone blinked again. You were, he said. I saw you. You were leaning down to chew on me. But, Hector stammered, isn't that what you're for? The purple bone blinked at them yet again, looking as though he were very offended. Then, abruptly, he burst out laughing. Oh, yeah, I almost really had the two of you there, didn't I? The purple bone said. Now Hector and Sunny were laughing too, partly out of relief that they hadn't actually caused any offence, but mostly because it was a pretty good practical joke for the purple bone to play. You really did almost have us, they said. Hector and Sunny introduced themselves, and the bone said, What's up? My name's Milky. Because I got so much calcium in me, I'll make your little gnashes shine. Welcome to New York City. So, you guys are looking for something to chew, huh? Yes, Hector and Sunny said, and they told him about their predicament, about leaving all their chew toys at home. Well, said Milky, let me let you in on a little secret. Have the two of you ever heard of a magical little place called Chew York City? Chew York City? Hector and Sunny looked at each other and at Milky in confusion and wonder. No, we haven't, said Hector. What's that? Oh, said Milky. Well, it's the most stupendously wondrous place you could ever, in a million years, imagine. But I don't want to tell you about it. I want to show you. Follow me. And with that, Milky tottered off towards the grate, which he lifted up, revealing a deep, dark tunnel. Follow me, he said again, and he dove right in. It didn't take Hector and Sunny more than a quick, eager glance to know that of course they were going to follow him. They had a thirst for adventure, and they wanted more than anything to find out about this whole new place, Chew York City. So in they dove, one after the other, and tumbled down and down and down until they landed back on the street, with Milky the purple bone standing right beside them, dusting himself off. They were exactly where they'd started, except they weren't. As they looked around, they began to notice differences. They seemed to be on the same street of New York, with the high-rise buildings and the leafy trees and the car parked by the side of the road. But everything seemed sort of different. Wow, whispered Hector, finally understanding what had happened. Look, Sunny, look. Everything is made out of chew toys. Sunny looked around. Hector was right. Everything, and she meant everything, was chewable. The cars were made of rubber. The wheels were giant frisbees. The trees weren't trees at all, but delicious-looking sticks with stuffed toy leaves hanging from the twiggy branches. The walls weren't built out of bricks. They were built out of chewy cuboids and lengths of rope for tug-of-war. Even the buildings were chewable. All bits of chewy, rubbery goodness fitted together into huge, towering puzzles of chewability. Wow! Just looking at it all made Sunny feel a bit dizzy. Now that's the kind of reaction I was hoping for, Milky said. Welcome to New York City. What do you guys think? It's like a dreamland, sighed Hector. It sure is, Milky agreed. It's just the kind of place you never thought would exist. But it does. Here it is. And all the dogs of New York City know about it. They just come out of their houses, open up a portal grate, and jump right on down. And they find themselves here in New York City. So, Milky, the purple bone, looked at Hector and Sunny with a big grin. What are you guys waiting for? Go! Chew to your heart's content. Hector and Sunny didn't need telling twice. They were off, bounding through New York City. Everything they passed they had a gnaw of, or gave a lick, or tucked their teeth in for a good old chew. Lampposts and water pumps, restaurant tables and fence posts. They hopped into a bakery and chewed on a baguette, which wasn't a baguette at all, but a stuffed toy. The streets were lined with endlessly delicious shoes, which they weren't usually, in the normal world, allowed to chew on. They met lots of friendly dogs on their way, who greeted them with merry barks or showed them great new things to chew on. A big Great Dane showed them how to jump up on walls to collect the little treats that were littered on top of them. And in Central Park, a tiny chihuahua showed them that if you shook certain trees hard enough, bouncy toys full of peanut butter and berries would be dislodged from the branches and rain down like fruit. As they sauntered down a street, they bumped into Milky the purple bone again, who asked them how they were doing. Hey, you guys, he added. Have you been to the Statue of Liberty yet? Hector and Sunny shook their heads. The Statue of Liberty? They asked. What's that? Oh, man, I can't believe you guys haven't seen it yet, sighed Milky. The Statue of Liberty is to New York City what the Statue of Liberty is to New York City. It's the most important landmark in the whole place. And you won't be able to guess what Our Lady of Liberty is holding up in her hand. Say, Milky added, can you two swim? Hector and Sunny both nodded. They loved to swim. Good, said Milky. Follow me. And in a few minutes, all three of them were swimming through the cool, fresh water of the New York harbour, doggy paddling over to the Statue of Liberty. She stood on an island in the middle of the water. They reached the bank and clambered out. Then they began to scale the statue. Up and up they went, climbing up her chewy robes, over her head, up her arm, until they reached the top and discovered she was holding the most perfect golden bone they could ever have imagined. It twinkled in the sunlight. It looked irresistibly appetizing. Go on, Milky urged them. Have a taste. And let me tell you, they certainly did. It was the most mouth-wateringly delicious chew bone they'd ever tasted. There the three of them sat, Hector and Sunny and their new friend, Milky the purple bone. They watched the cityscape of New York City darken into a silhouette as the sun dipped behind it. They watched the waves in the harbour lap against the shore. And they watched seagulls, who were actually flying stuffed toys, dip down and take little gulps of water. Soon Hector found himself yawning, and when he let one out, Sunny started yawning too. Then even Milky was yawning. That's how infectious yawns can be.
"Oof," said Hector. "That was a very fun but very tiring day. We've been all over New York City, chewing on every little thing we can find. But now I'm tired. I need my bed."
Sunny couldn't agree more. And so Milky, the purple bone, led them back to the grate that they had arrived through and lifted it up.
"It sure was fun meeting you guys," he said. "You will come back to New York City, won't you?"
Hector and Sunny nodded.
"Of course we will,"
they said. And then together they jumped back through the grate and landed back in New York City, where the world was normal once again. They walked slowly through the fading evening, seeing families eating their dinner, kids playing, people sitting on the stoops outside their houses listening to music. Eventually they reached where they were staying. Luckily, they discovered that Hector's dad was still asleep. He must have been exhausted. He hadn't even noticed they'd been gone at all. Yawning, Hector and Sunny just about managed to take off their sun hats and sunglasses and climb into their baskets, where warm and cozy blankets were waiting for them. Sunny gave a big stretch and a yawn. Hector laid his head on his paws. His eyes were feeling sleepy and sticky. What a day it had been. This morning they'd woken up in Leeds at the crack of dawn, gone through the airport, flown on a plane. And now, not only had they arrived in New York City, but they'd found a whole canine paradise beneath it. What fun it had been. Hector was drifting off to sleep, his memories of the day beginning to slip seamlessly into the content of his dreams, when he heard Sunny's voice.
"Hey, Hector,"
she whispered.
"Yes?"
he said.
"Can I just say that actually I'm quite glad that you forgot our bag of chew toys,"
she said. In his half-sleep, Hector frowned.
"Why is that?"
he asked.
"Well,"
she said,
"if you'd remembered them, we never would have found Milky. And if we'd never found Milky, we never would have found New York City either. And that would have been a real shame."
"Oh," said Hector.
"I never thought of it like that. You're completely right."
And now, feeling very glad, even proud, that he'd forgotten the bag of chew toys, Hector fell asleep. And soon after that, Sunny fell asleep too. And all night long, through their peaceful sleeps, they dreamed of New York City and all the fun they had shared there together. It's time for me to start our story tonight, where we meet our lovely friends Hector and Sunny. The two puppy pals climb aboard a magical bus and have lots of fun along the way. This is Hector and Sunny Take a Magical Bus Ride by Gillian Rogerson. It was a warm morning, and a beautiful golden retriever by the name of Hector was on a walk with his owner. They strolled along the streets together, and Hector made sure he barked out a cheery hello to everyone they met. Hector's owner stopped in front of a bus stop and gave it a puzzled look. He said to Hector, I've never noticed this bus stop before. Have you? It must be new." Hector barked a reply and said he'd never seen it before either. His owner didn't speak dog, but seemed to understand Hector's reply. Hector moved nearer to the bus stop and sniffed it. It didn't smell of anything, and that was unusual, because in Hector's expert opinion, everything had a smell. Hector looked closely at the new bus stop. He noticed tiny silver sparkles on it, which twinkled in the sunlight. The silver reminded him of a certain squirrel called Sydney who had magical powers and had taken Hector and his friend on exciting adventures. Was the bus stop magical? And if so, how did it work? Hector wished his best friend Sunny was there to answer his questions. He hadn't seen her for a whole day and was missing her a lot. At that moment, something familiar happened. The world around Hector came to a standstill, and his owner froze in time. Something magical was about to happen. Hector heard the sound of a bus approaching. He looked along the road and saw a bus driving towards him. It was silver, and a dog was driving it. The bus came to a stop right next to Hector. With a whoosh, the doors opened, and the driver, a Jack Russell wearing a blue cap, gave Hector a big grin and said, "Hello there. My name is Rascal. Would you like to take a ride on the magical bus express? If so, climb on board, and my brother Gizmo will show you to your seat." Hector said, "Oh, I'd love to get on your bus, but can we pick up my friend, Sunny, please? She's my best friend in the whole world, and I don't want to have an adventure without her." Still smiling, Rascal replied, "Of course. Our next stop will be at Sunny's house. My good friend, Sydney the squirrel, told me about your previous adventures together, and he thought it was time you had another one. Climb on board." Hector took another look at his owner. He was still frozen in time, and would stay like that until Hector returned. Hector jumped onto the bus and padded down the aisle. Another Jack Russell wearing a blue cap was waiting for him and said his name was Gizmo. He showed Hector to a window seat and said they would be picking up Sunny next, and also that other dogs would join them further along. Hector said, "Where are we going on our journey?" Gizmo grinned. "Anywhere you want to. And it depends where the other passengers want to go too. You might be able to help them with that." Hector settled down further in the seat and looked out of the window. Another adventure. How exciting. And he would get to see Sunny again too. The bus set off and trundled down the road. It turned a few corners and came to a stop outside Sunny's house. There was a new silver bus stop outside her house, just like the one Hector had seen. Sunny's owner was frozen in time in front of the bus stop, a puzzled look on her face. And Sunny? Well, Sunny was standing at the bus stop. Her beautiful blue eyes glowed with happiness when she saw Hector on the silver bus. Like a flash, she leapt through the open doors of the bus and bounded over to her best friend. "Hector, hi!" Sunny beamed at her friend. "We're going on another adventure. Do know where we're going?" Hector told Sunny what Gizmo had said. Sunny nodded and said it all sounded very exciting. Hector and Sunny heard a noise at the front of the bus and saw 2 dogs climbing on. They looked over at Sunny and waved to her. Hector had never seen the dogs before and asked Sunny who they were. "It's Robbie and Lola," Sunny replied. "They moved onto my street yesterday afternoon. I had a lovely chat with them and told them about our magical adventures. They liked hearing about how we had met Sydney and followed him into Dreamland. They said they would love to go there one day." Robbie and Lola said hello to Hector and Sunny and sat in the seats behind them. Robbie leaned forward and said eagerly, "Do you think this bus is going to Dreamland?"
I really hope it is.
A thoughtful look fell over Hector's face. Sunny smiled at him. She knew he was about to come up with a wonderful idea. She was right. Hector beckoned Gizmo over and asked if the bus driver could take them to Dreamland. Gizmo said of course, and his brother knew where to find Sydney the silver-furred squirrel who would lead them into the magical place. The bus set off and the passengers gazed happily out of the windows. A few minutes later, the bus came to another silver-coloured bus stop. This time, a dog and a cat got on. They walked down the aisle and said hello to everyone. The dog said, "My name is Peanut Butter, and this is my best friend, Jelly. We saw that new bus stop appearing a few minutes ago and had a feeling we should stand there. And then this bus came along. Does anyone know where it's going?" Hector told Peanut Butter and Jelly it was going to Dreamland. He then told them that it was a place where dreams came true, and they could go to it too. "How wonderful," Peanut Butter said with a big smile on his furry face. He looked out of the window. "Oh, our friends are running towards the bus. Can we wait for them? Can they come to Dreamland with us?" The driver of the bus, Rascal, had already spotted another cat and dog running towards the vehicle. He opened the doors and gave them a welcoming smile. The new passengers climbed on board. The dog was called Bella, and the cat was called Sunday. When they heard where the bus was going, they broke into huge smiles and said they couldn't wait to visit Dreamland. The dogs and cats settled down in their seats and the bus set off. It soon arrived at the park where Sydney, the silver-furred squirrel, lived. Hector and Sunny weren't at all surprised to see the squirrel waiting for the bus. Sunny said to Hector, "It's almost like he knew we were coming here." Everyone got off the bus, including Rascal and Gizmo, who said they were going to buy some gravy-flavoured ice creams. Sydney said hello to everyone and that he knew why they were there. He said, "If you'd like to follow me, I will take you into Dreamland. You can return at any time, and the silver bus will collect you and take you home. Hector, Sunny, are you coming with us?" Hector and Sunny shared a look. They were thinking the same thing. Hector said,
Not this time, thank you. We want to go back on the bus and see where it goes next."
Sunny was about to agree with him, but she noticed a little corgi looking at them. His name was Mika, and he was a good friend of theirs. Hector and Sunny often played running games with Mika, and even though he had little legs, the corgi always ran as fast as he possibly could. Mika had told them that he often dreamed about winning a running race, but, alas, he didn't think his dream would ever come true. Sunny waved at Mika and asked him to come closer. He jogged over on his little legs and said hello. Sunny explained about Dreamland and how the dogs and cats in front of her were about to enter it. She said, "You can go there too, and your dream of winning a running race will finally come true." Mika's little mouth fell open in delighted surprise. Sunny gave him a gentle nudge, and the corgi moved towards the others. Sydney waved goodbye to Hector and Sunny and took the animals through a magical tree and into Dreamland. Hector and Sunny knew their friends would have a wonderful time there. Hector and Sunny climbed back onto the bus. Rascal and Gizmo returned with ice creams for all of them. The dogs chatted whilst they ate their delicious treats. Rascal got back into the driver's seat, and off they went down the road. At the next silver bus stop, a Labrador wearing sunglasses and a denim jacket got on. He sauntered casually down the aisle and sat in the middle of the back seat. Hector and Sunny silently stared at the cool-looking dog, impressed by his jacket and sunglasses. Hector whispered to Sunny,
"Who is that cool dude? I've never seen him before."
Sunny whispered back, "He's called Maverick. I've seen him at the park, but I've always been too shy to talk to him." Hector looked over his shoulder at Maverick and smiled. Maverick took off his sunglasses and gave Hector a friendly wink. Because Hector had to say hello to everyone he met, he just couldn't help himself from walking over to Maverick and sitting next to him. He introduced himself and asked Maverick where he was going. Sunny joined the two dogs and smiled bashfully at Maverick. The Labrador told them he was a lover of art, and when he saw the silver bus, he got on, hoping it would go in the direction of an art gallery. He asked Hector if he knew where the bus was going.
"It can go anywhere you want it to,"
Hector replied. He waved to Gizmo and asked if they could go to an art gallery. "Of course," Gizmo replied. "There's one further along this road. We'll make a stop there." The bus soon came to a stop outside an art gallery. Hector, Sunny, and Maverick got off. The bus driver and conductor said they would have a nap whilst they waited for the dogs to return. Hector and Sunny walked with their new friend into the art gallery. It was one that was dedicated to dogs. Once through the door, they saw some marble statues. One was of a dog holding the world on his back, and another was of a dog sitting down with a look of deep thinking etched onto his marble face. Sunny said to Hector, "That's what you look like when you're having deep thoughts." Hector copied the pose and made them both chuckle. The three dogs looked at the oil paintings on the walls. There was a picture of King Charles Spaniel I, King Charles Spaniel II, and King Charles Spaniel III. They all looked very regal, and Sunny couldn't help herself from curtsying in front of them. She'd seen someone on the television doing that in front of the Queen, and she felt like it was the appropriate thing to do. Hector tried to curtsy too, but he fell over. The dogs looked at a painting of a dog with long hair who was smiling gently. Her smile was so lovely and kind, and it made the dogs smile back at her. The next painting they saw was made of tiny golden squares and showed a couple of dogs holding hands and gazing at each other in a soppy way, like they were about to kiss. Hector and Sunny giggled like puppies at the painting. Maverick shook his head good-naturedly at them. They continued to look at other paintings and statues, and then Hector and Sunny decided they had seen enough. They asked Maverick if he wanted to go back to the bus with them. "No, thank you," he replied. "I want to stay here a bit longer and absorb the artistic air of this splendid building and its resplendent displays." Hector and Sunny had no idea what he was talking about, but they nodded wisely as if they understood. They said goodbye and went back to the bus. Gizmo and Rascal woke up from their nap and welcomed Hector and Sunny back. The silver bus set off down the road once more. The next passengers they picked up were two dogs called Dakota and Nymeria. They were wearing rainbow-coloured t-shirts and carrying instruments, which they told the other dogs were called sitars. They sat behind Hector and Sunny and asked if they'd heard of a fairy called Bliss. Hector and Sunny hadn't, and asked who she was. A faraway smile alighted on Dakota's face. "She's a fairy who travels the world, teaching everyone about the importance of peace, love, and music. We've created some soothing songs and want to play them to her. I hope we can find her somewhere." Sunny came up with an idea and said, "From what I've heard, fairies usually live in forests. I'll ask Gizmo if we can go to the nearest one, and you can ask the animals who live in the forest about Bliss. What do you say? Is that a good idea?" Dakota and Nymeria thought it was an excellent idea. Sunny talked to Gizmo. He said she was in luck because they were about to drive past a place called Sleepy Forest, and he knew that many magical beings lived there. Sleepy Forest appeared on the horizon, and the silver bus pulled up next to it. Nymeria and Dakota asked Hector and Sunny if they wanted to go with them, and even though the thought of meeting a fairy called Bliss was tempting, they said no, thank you, and wished the other dogs a successful journey. Hector gazed at Sleepy Forest and told Sunny they should explore it one day. Sunny agreed. The bus continued along the road. 2 more dog passengers soon boarded the bus. They were wearing superhero capes made out of tea towels. Their names were Thor and Parker, but their superhero names were Thor the Thunder Dog and Parker the Spider Dog. The new passengers got talking to Hector and Sunny and asked if they knew of any dogs who needed rescuing. Thor the Thunder Dog explained,
"We need to practice our superhero skills, and the best way to do that is by rescuing other dogs."
Hector noticed an adventure park coming up ahead and asked Gizmo if they could stop there for a while. The bus came to a stop at the adventure park, and Hector asked the superheroes and Sunny to join him outside. They got off the bus. Hector said,
"Sunny and I can pretend we need rescuing, and then you can practice your skills."
The superheroes thought that was a fabulous idea. They closed their eyes and told Hector and Sunny to get into position. Sunny climbed onto a rope bridge and pretended to be scared of heights. She wasn't at all scared, but did an excellent job of pretending she was. Hector wriggled into a tire and pretended he was stuck. It took him all of 2 seconds to realize that he really was stuck. He called out to Thunder Dog and Spider Dog and asked for help. The superheroes raced over to him and pushed and pulled. Then they pulled and pushed. But Hector remained stuck. From up on her rope bridge, Sunny smiled and shook her head at the rescue attempts. She leapt easily off the bridge and ran over to Hector. She knew her friend very well, and she knew how ticklish he was. She tickled Hector behind his ears. Hector giggled and wiggled his way right out of the tire. Once he was free, he thanked Sunny for rescuing him. Thunder Dog and Spider Dog said they had probably loosened Hector first. Sunny smiled gently at them and said they probably had. Hector and Sunny decided to return to the silver bus. The superhero dogs said they would play at the adventure park a bit longer and see if anyone else needed rescuing. The silver bus set off down the road again. Each time new passengers got on, Hector and Sunny would help them find the perfect place to visit. First of all, they helped a mother and daughter called Bella and Gigi and their friend Penny go on an adventure to the city. They had never left the countryside before and were eager to see what the city had to offer. Hector and Sunny took them to a movie theatre, a restaurant, and then a shopping centre. The 3 country dogs decided to stay at the shopping centre and buy some new clothes. The next 2 dogs to board the bus were called Oreo and Howie. They were looking for a birthday present for one of their friends. Gizmo knew the perfect place to go and told his brother to head towards a toy shop that was just for dogs. It didn't take them long to get there. The toy shop was in the shape of a huge kennel, and inside it were the most amazing toys and treats that any of the dogs had ever seen. There were squeaky toys in the shape of pizzas, dinosaurs, and spaceships. There was even one that looked like a stick. Hector and Sunny loved that one. They saw lots of chew toys and balls in all shapes and sizes. The dogs were utterly amazed to see a ball that returned itself to whoever had thrown it. Hector kept throwing the ball into the distance, and a few moments later, the ball would roll back to him. Hector had to sit down because it was too amazing for him to take in. Oreo and Howie said they would stay at the toy shop a while longer because there were so many toys to choose from and they didn't want to rush. Hector and Sunny went back to the bus. The last passengers of the day were two dogs called Winnie and Greta. They were wearing their best dresses and finest hats. Winnie said hello to Hector and Sunny and asked if they knew any fancy hotels where they could have an afternoon tea. She had heard her owner talk about having an afternoon tea many times and thought it sounded like a delightful experience. Neither Hector nor Sunny knew what afternoon tea was, so Winnie explained it was a delicious treat of sandwiches and cakes, all washed down by cups of refreshing tea. The thought of food made Hector and Sunny's tummies rumble, and they asked if they could join Winnie and Greta. Greta said, "Of course, but we still need to find a fancy hotel." "Leave that to me," Sunny said. She talked to Gizmo, and he knew of the perfect place. Not only did it have a wonderful dining room, but the hotel also had a golf course. Gizmo said, "My brother and I love playing golf and keep our golf clubs in the bus, just in case we need them. We can play a round or two of golf whilst you have your fancy afternoon tea." The silver bus drove towards a grand-looking hotel and pulled into the car park. Gizmo and Rascal collected their gold clubs and went off to play golf. Hector, Sunny, Winnie, and Greta headed into the hotel and towards the dining room. They were greeted by a friendly-looking dog dressed in a suit. He said his name was Frank, and he would be their waiter. Frank led them to a table that was covered in a delicate lace tablecloth. The dogs sat down and gave their order to Frank. Frank hurried away and returned less than a minute later, with plates overflowing with soft sandwiches, scrumptious scones, and cream-filled cakes. There was a huge pot of tea and a jug of cold water. Hector and Sunny tried the hot tea, but didn't think much of it and had water instead. The afternoon tea was utterly delicious. Hector and Sunny ate their portions and licked their plates clean. Winnie and Greta couldn't eat all of theirs and asked Frank for doggy bags to take the rest of their food home. With full tummies, the 4 dogs returned to the silver bus. Gizmo and Rascal had finished their game of golf and were putting their clubs away. Everyone climbed onto the bus. Having a full tummy made Hector sleepy, and as soon as he sat down in his comfy seat, he closed his eyes and fell asleep. Sunny leaned against her friend and fell asleep too. Sometime later, Sunny and Hector were gently woken up by Gizmo. He told them they were nearly home. Hector asked if they had picked up the other dogs on the way back. Gizmo said, "We did. Everyone's had an amazing day. I know they'll sleep well tonight." He looked through the window. "Sunny, this is your stop. It's been wonderful having you on board. I hope we'll see you again soon." Sunny said goodbye to Hector and got off the bus. She stood next to her owner, who was still frozen in time. The silver bus pulled away. Hector waved at his best friend. Hector was the last passenger on the bus. When it was his time to get off, he said thank you to Rascal and Gizmo for such a lovely adventure. Hector jumped off the bus and waved goodbye to the bus driver and conductor. The silver bus drove on down the road. Then, in a cloud of silver sparkles, the bus disappeared. The silver bus stop vanished too. Hector's owner became unfrozen. He blinked in surprise and said, "Hector, I thought I saw a new bus stop here, but now it's gone." What do you make of that? Did I imagine it? Hector barked and told his owner he hadn't imagined it at all. His owner gave Hector a long look and said, "Sometimes, Hector, there's a knowing look in your eyes, and I think you're trying to tell me something. Come on, pal, let's go to the park. Perhaps we can call on Sunny on the way and see if she wants to come with us." Hector smiled. Seeing Sunny twice in one day would make his magical day even more magical. Now we're floating into a deep and peaceful sleep. Feel how your muscles are relaxing. Your arms are heavy and your legs are too, as they loosen and release any tension remaining from the day. Feel how you let your body fall into the cozy warmth of your bed. Close your eyes. Let your eyelids be heavy. Breathe deeply. Breathe in and out. Breathe in and out as you continue to breathe deeply, and as you keep feeling how your body becomes soft and heavy with sleep, let your mind drift away. That is the wonderful secret about sleep. While your body rests, lying heavily in your bed, your mind is set free, like a bird taking flight from a branch and flying up and up and up into the air. Feel how your mind loosens now, like a balloon that has been untied from a fence, and floats up and up and up like a bird. Up and up and up it floats towards the sky until it reaches up into the clouds. Imagine that you have risen up high above the world and your head has poked up through the clouds. Then spread out all around you in the silvery moonlight, white fluffy clouds that look like cotton wool or marshmallows. They look so soft and squishy you can lie back on them and roll around in them. Try it now. Lie back in the soft cradle of the clouds. Feel how they swirl and wrap around your body, holding you gently in the world of sleep. Clouds come in all shapes and sizes. Some are big and fluffy, some are slender wisps. Some look like puffy mushrooms, and others look like paintbrush strokes that have been left on the dark sky. Let your body relax. Let your mind relax too. Let your mind float off into sleep. You are peaceful. You are safe. You are being held in the cozy warmth of sleep. With your eyes closed, let your mind drift up, up, up and away. In the world of dreams, you can go anywhere you like. You can float on blue oceans with ripples and tufts of waves. Or you can visit castles built in the sky with spiraling turrets and drawbridges over sparkling moats. Or you can wander into the peaceful woods where the birds are twittering and the trees are dense with dark green leaves. Breathe in and out. Breathe in and out again as you fall more deeply into your cozy sleep. And with your eyes still closed, take a look around with your mind at where your dreams have taken you. When I fall asleep, I dream that I've gone to a world high up up in the clouds. Sometimes the clouds are dappled silver from the moonlight. Sometimes they're soft pink and gold, reflecting the light of the twinkling stars. What form do your dreams take? Where does your mind go when you fall asleep? Maybe in your dreams there are flocks of white fluffy sheep huddling together on the green fields. Look at the mother ewe yawn widely before she tucks her little lambs beneath her woolly fleece. Or maybe you dream of a friendly dragon, curled up with his tail wrapped around him, a little trail of clouds puffing out of his nostrils. Look, the cloud dragon is smiling at us and waving. What a friendly dragon he is. Or maybe you dream of cute puppies lying on their backs, their tongues lolling out of their mouths, their eyes closing because they've had such a long day. They look tired, and there's their papa dog, fluffy and white, padding softly over to wish the puppies good night. Up here on the sea of clouds, you can be free. Feel how light you are, weightless, floating, drifting through sleep. Feel everything heavy from the day lift off you and drift away, taken away by currents until they disappear over the bank of clouds. Any worries you have been having, watch them float away. Anything that has been weighing on your mind during the daytime, now you can let them go and watch them drift away. Your worries are not you. You are not your worries. You can let them go. Watch them float away. Now you are light as air. You are as gentle as starlight. You are as soft as the clouds. Up in the sleepy sky, everything is weightless and peaceful. The clouds stretch out like a sea of tranquility. Close your eyes and feel the clouds wrap around you. Feel them bearing your body gently into the land of sleep. Feel your eyes close. Feel them rest heavily as your body relaxes into sleep. Feel your mind lighten. Feel it loosen and drift away, light as a feather, soft as the clouds. Breathe in and out. Breathe in and out. The world of clouds is waiting for you. Let yourself fall into the clouds' soft, warm hug. They are here to protect you. They are here to cushion you. They are here to hold you as you enjoy your deep and peaceful sleep. Sleep well, little one. Sleep well in the land of clouds. Feel how light you are. Feel how weightless, floating, drifting through sleep, light as air, gentle as starlight, soft as clouds. Good night, little one. Sleep tight.